Speaking Moistly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Speaking Moistly. Hopefully, Greg and I have solved our sound issues. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We're trying anyway. And yeah, everything looks okay. Welcome, Greg. Thanks for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Had a great Canadian Thanksgiving. How are
Awesome.
you?
Great. Yeah, we had Thanksgiving. Had a couple of different dinners, and yeah, it was fun. It's nice to have family time. Nice to get together with people and. While we talked politics, of course, we talked politics. Everybody was talking politics around my Thanksgiving table. It was fun. It was good to connect with everybody. And,
Nice.
yeah.
I tried to avoid the topic for the most part because it just feels like it's me against everybody sometimes, you know?
Yes.
But, that's okay.
Yes. It is. It can feel like an uphill battle sometimes, especially when I went to the skate sharpening place today. I went to get my skates sharpened, and the guy said,
Right.
"You have to wear a mask." And I said, "Oh, actually, I don't." I said, "I'm exempt. There's 3 exemptions to the public order, and 2 of them apply to me." And he said, "Yeah, well, you still have to wear a mask in here." And I said, "Oh, no, I don't actually." And we had a quick conversation, and I got served anyway. But it was funny to me just how autopilot the whole thing was. Like he didn't hear anything I said. He was like, "Yeah, you got to get a mask on though." So it was very
Good for you, man. Good for you.
well, I'm kind of a jerk. It's,
No, I can tell, but it's we need jerks like you these days to be like, actually, no, that's not normal. This is weird.
This is
and
weird.
I'm not doing that.
I'm not going to play this crazy old game that you guys all want me to play. So,
Yeah.
moving into crazy games, we've got Jason Kenney, and we're going to look at provincial governance during this Speaking Moistly, and it's a heavy COVID episode, everyone. So strap in.
My favorite.
Yay! It's kind of what we're living though these days, right? The politicians are all using this to justify their own, their narrative, their agendas. And here's Jason Kenney, and he's backing off a little bit, which is nice to see. He says an important statement from the World Health Organization. It says we in the WHO do not advocate lockdowns as the primary means of controlling this virus. We really do appeal to all world leaders: stop using lockdown as your primary control method. And so that's good news for people in Alberta. There was another follow-up tweet from Mr. Kenney that says, we won't be micromanaging people. We're going to basically open up. And that's in stark contrast to Doug Ford. But at what point, it says, well, at what point do we listen to the WHO or do we ignore the WHO, right? The WHO is being very clear at asking the world leaders to stop with the lockdowns. At what point do we listen to them? Greg, what do you think?
I mean, what really, really bothers me about this is the precedent that it sets. Because, when you hire somebody to do something, they're expected to do something well. They're expected to be an expert.
Mm-hmm.
And with them still having this authority and then changing their mind, it sets this precedent of, well, even though you're the World Health Organization, it's okay if you're wrong. It's okay if you're wrong and then you change it and then you change your mind later. And when you still have this authority, you're still seen as an expert.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells people it's okay if these so-called experts completely get it wrong and then completely change their mind later. That's just the way it is. It's totally fine for these huge organizations to drop the ball and then change their mind, and we're all going to act like it's fine. Okay?
Well, and it's even more complicated than that, because in 2019, Canada's early detection system, which was world class, started winding down and focusing on vaping, if you can believe it, like vaping to
Wow.
Yeah, instead of monitoring for pandemics and keeping Canadians safe in a worldwide way. And they were early movers and advised politicians on policy, like, we see this, so we should do this. All of that was mothballed in favor of looking at vaping, which is a very strange thing. And so when you look at those different layers as well, isn't being an expert just listening to what China says through the WHO and then parroting that? Like, it seems like that's all it takes these days to be a well-respected expert, right? You can get in newspapers if you agree with what the zeitgeist is, if you agree with the narrative. You could get into talk shows and everybody, if you agree on Twitter, but everybody likes all your, retweets and all sorts of stuff if you say what they want you to say. But as soon as you start questioning it, it's a whole other story, right? It's very...
Yeah, but something I'm hearing from people that I know who are kind of like more normie Canadians is that this isn't really hitting the mainstream news cycle too hard in Canada. Like the CBC isn't really covering this. That the WHO is saying, "Oh yeah, lockdowns aren't actually really that great." As far as I can tell, I don't know if the CBC
Yeah.
or if CTV, if Global is covering this news item, but from somebody who's a small business owner that I know, they're like, why haven't I heard of this? Why isn't this being talked about?
Yeah.
Because it's their livelihood. Like
Yep.
they're a business owner here in Toronto, so they're kind of like, yeah, what the heck? The WHO is saying this? Why isn't this a part of the conversation?
Right. And I mean, like, when the WHO is saying, please don't do this to your people. This is having very, very catastrophic what's the collateral damage.
Mm-hmm.
Please stop. And it's completely ignored by the press, completely out of the discussion. Like when Doug Ford wouldn't speak about HCQ, right, and the controversy around such a benign drug, something that's been
A
safe for
malaria drug
humans,
for a long time, yeah.
that everybody's used 60 years, right? Like that's a long time of usage.
Yeah.
And Ford didn't talk anything about that. I didn't think it was forgivable, but I thought, maybe politically toxic, maybe there's a reason you could explain that to yourself. But this is just wild, right? Like just ignoring the WHO after saying, oh yeah, we got a list of those WHO guys. Here, I'm going to show you what Ford's doing. Here's Ford. It says we've announced $300 million in funding to help small businesses with their fixed costs over the next 28 days. That includes waiving provincial and municipal property tax, electricity bills, natural gas bills. Please support your local businesses whenever possible. That's not nearly enough. Like I looked at that as and does that incentivize me to start a business? Does that incentivize me to go out and like have payroll to pay or all of the bills that go along with actually running a business? Not at all. Like no, thanks very much. I'll sit on the curb. This doesn't help anybody. This is demoralizing. If this is all they've got, holy cow, we've got to listen to the WHO.
Yeah, this is just a little. It's like a little carrot almost. It's
Mm-hmm.
a little carrot of like, oh, here you go. We're nothing to worry about. We're going to give you this little bit of amount of funding, and everything's going to be okay. It's a very short term band-aid solution that might sedate or kind of please people for the time, but anybody who's looking at this at the long term, anybody who has foresight, no,
Yeah.
this is like too little. This does not make me feel more secure about the future of our economy or of my small business necessarily.
Right. Well, and I mean, it's incentivizing people to reimagine what their small business could be, but it's certainly not with a storefront paying real estate and paying for staff that will come in every day. It's a very different thing altogether. And there are places like restaurants and gyms and
Mm-hmm.
nightclubs that I mean that doesn't work, right? Like please log into your nightclub account and
Are, are,
put on your
are you
virtual reality.
are you looking at this video of Ford?
No, no, we're not. I'm not going to play the video.
No, but can you put it on screen?
Yeah, it's
Look,
on screen. Yeah,
look how scary the guy in the back looks.
he does look kind of scary. They
It's freaking me
always
out.
Justin Trudeau used to be flanked by like two guys in suits, like men in black guys, and I was like, who are these? Like lower
Right.
cabinet minister? Who are these guys? Are these like security
Yeah.
guys? Like why do they look so angry all the time? Is
Yeah,
this guy an
this-
MPP or? I've never seen. I don't think I've seen him.
I don't feel very settled looking at that. I feel very
No.
uncomfortable looking at that guy.
No.
Anyway,
Well, and so like I mean, yeah, like we could talk about. I mean, that's a weird aside, but I mean, like a weird aside, but I've noticed it too. But the business Ford has always been for the people, right? He's always been kind of trying to be a business friendly, conservative style leader, and this is a very he's trying to take care of the businesses by trying to convince them that a government bailout for a month of revenue is a replacement for a month of revenue. And I don't think that that's I think that he knows better. I think that like running a business alone for the amount of money that you maybe would have made for the month is not the same as making that money for the month. And it's not good.
it's definitely antithetical to like conservative and economic conservative, right?
Yeah.
Because like this is pretty well, hey, you know what? Instead of trying to get the market back going, instead of trying to get the economy back going, we're going to try this socialist policy for a month, and and I'm a conservative. Like
Vote PC, progressive conservatives. The progressive
yeah.
part means socialism.
Ain't that the truth?
It's just, I mean, it's just insulting, right? And you know what else is insulting? Do you want to wear a mask outside? You want to be forced to wear a mask outside? Now, I don't wear masks inside because I'm exempt, because I have a medical condition called I'm not playing that game. But
I've heard of
yeah,
that. I've
yeah,
heard that condition.
it's very lungy. It's very gets right in the that part of the lungs, right? Yeah, whatever. So anyway, New Brunswick though is detailing outdoor mask rules for Moncton and Campbellton areas. Do you want to read out the part I didn't highlight? I used this on my show today. So did you highlight that part you read earlier? Do you want to read that part?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
An updated version of the province's emergency declaration order was issued Monday. The order says masks are mandatory in outdoor locations where people can gather, such as streets, sidewalks, public squares, parks, playgrounds, markets, festival sites, dog parks, and walking trails.
Yes. Isn't
Wow.
right? And it says at the top of the article, it says it's also not required while walking, jogging, running, cycling, or at rest alone or with a member of their household bubble. However, if a person is likely to come within 2 meters of someone from outside their bubble, they must wear a mask. This is unbelievable. Go ahead.
It's weird because, social, first of all, it's physical distancing, but there's the whole distancing thing. And now it's just wrap your face up even if nobody's around.
Yes.
Even if nobody's around and you're outside.
Be fearful.
That, to me, that is, where's the science there? Where's the science there? And I don't, this is very anecdotal and not like very substantiative, and it's anecdotal. But from what I've heard throughout COVID, I've been hearing some even more kind of totalitarian stuff coming from New Brunswick specifically. Like I've heard they're very intense when it comes to quarantining yourself when you like go into New Brunswick. Like I remember hearing that the rules in New Brunswick specifically were much more intense than any other, or at least this is the anecdote that I heard of how hardcore they are when it comes to being in quarantine.
Yeah, well, the whole Atlantic bubble is the same. It's they're fanatical about it, right? Like I've heard it used to be, that people were welcoming in Eastern Canada. It's like, oh, you're visiting, hi. And now it's like they'll take a golf club to your car if you've got the wrong license plate. It's like, oh, is that from Ontario? Yeah, back up, buddy. Like,
and I'm not saying that these provincial governments or that federal whatever level are trying to be as totalitarian as possible, but sometimes it feels they are on the East Coast taking advantage of the docility and the kind of passive, friendly, nice nature of the Maritimes and saying, well, actually, let's see how far we can push this. How about we just do masks anytime you're outside?
Yeah.
Really? Even in a park where like no one else is around? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, let's go for it. Let's see if they're into that. Let's see.
I wonder how long before we're going to be talking about mandatory masks indoors. Right. And have you seen the reports of the internment camps being built? And again, like this is on the floor of the Ontario legislature being discussed by an independent MPP, Randy Hillier. But there was requisitions by the federal government looking to build, internment camps. There's no better word for it. So, that's concerning, right? Like,
yeah, no, it's funny if you tell normies that, like I was telling my parents this weekend, oh yeah, this is they're kind of building these internment camps they send you for COVID. No, they're not. And it's like the CBC is useless. Yeah. And this is stuff that people should hear about. They should know about creepy stuff like that.
Yeah. And I'd love to be able to dismiss things like that. I'd love to be able to, no, you're crazy. The government wouldn't do that. But I know history, man. The government wouldn't do. Are you kidding me? Grab a history book and open to 1940 and then have a read for about 10 minutes and then come back and tell me the government wouldn't do that. Like,
yeah. And I think for most people, it's scary for them to want to step out of their very naive, comfortable, familiar worldview where, the only problems are these people who aren't wearing masks. The only problems are people like you, who are saying they're exempt, these villains running around. And then the second you start to bring up, patterns such as, having to do with what China has done and what you can't say or can say about China, and how all of our politicians have certain opinions when it comes to China, and, bring up patterns of communism in the past. It's like people like to go, whoa, 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 whoa. I think I'm just going to, have my light beer and, watch the NFL and
NBA.
just write you off as crazy, because I don't want to think about that. I don't want to venture into this uncertain reality where really scary things might be happening right under my nose.
Yeah, right there. Well, we were certainly living through interesting times. It was kind of boring in Canada in the 90s. I think that was by design. But the masks, just recently, and you sent me this report, just recently the CDC report shows that 85% of symptomatic people often or always wore masks. Now that we talk about it, I saw it on Twitter as well, the majority of people getting tested, they're the always wearing mask groups. So the idea that these masks will protect you, back to the masks and the draconian rules, the idea that these masks will protect you is just, where do you get the certainty? Where do you get the certainty about it? Just because the newspaper says so? It seems wrong-headed.
Yeah. And I think I've brought this up before, but this sort of comparing it to the whole climate change fiasco, where people are a little bit hysterical when it comes to, oh my God, CO2 emissions, like we're going to get flooded and die. Or like, oh my God, you don't have a mask on? Like we're going to catch COVID and die. And it's all very... it's working.
Yeah, well, it plays.
It's working.
It plays right to that base fear, right? Like right to that core, like you're gonna die, and also people are gonna laugh at you because you weren't wearing a mask, or because you did something stupid that you knew you weren't supposed to, like polluting the planet, right? Like we're gonna die, and the aliens that find the wreck of our civilization will laugh at us. That's
right. There's like the social shaming element, and then also the like reptilian survival.
Yes.
Brain.
And both are necessary. You have to have the shame too. It can't just be like you die and that's bad. It's like you die and you're funny, like you're the butt of the joke. Terrible. Right. But it plays right to the base, like that base fear. And it's very, very, I mean, they know what they're doing, right? Here's another excellent question with regards to COVID. Have there been any outbreaks among the homeless shelters or camps filled with low immunity people who don't discipline themselves, right? Why specifically are care homes and key sectors like politics and meat plants so susceptible to coronavirus? My kid's been in school for a month and a half now. Nothing. Everything's fine. Like it's one of those things where a whole bunch of kids got like the regular going back to school cold, but it's been pretty normal. So yeah, where are these massive outbreaks? It's almost like they're just making it up. Yeah.
I mean, why do I feel like talking about the homeless population is not something that's going to be on the CBC or a popular conversation?
Yeah. Well,
and once again, it's the conversation always seems to be so one-sided. It seems to be more cases, and it's like, are we going to have any amount of nuance here at all?
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. Obviously,
I haven't even seen the comparison. Like there are more places. I think there are more opiate deaths in Alberta, in Victoria, British Columbia, and in Guelph than COVID deaths. And nobody's talking about that. And I'm sure there are places where there are more COVID deaths than opiate deaths. I'm sure. I don't have those statistics, but I think that it is interesting in a place like Guelph, where the chances of you getting killed by opium potentially higher than getting killed by COVID. Nobody cares about that. It seems really, again, it seems like we're focusing on the wrong stuff, but that's the way our media is working right now, right?
Yeah. It's I mentioned this before in a previous episode of Speaking Moistly, but it's this COVID thing has almost turned into like a monotopic of the news. Like it's just like, let's just talk about COVID. Yeah. Let's not talk about homelessness.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about Roxham Road. Let's not talk about our most debt we've ever had in history.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not talk about and like it
Well,
just keeps going.
it's a good point because it is usurping, like, even our little comedy, like, joke half hour, not joke half hour, but like our conversation half hour that is not necessarily like we're not at a news desk, we're not like we've got to get to the bottom of this.
You're right. It's taking up our time.
It's taking up our time. We can't make fun of Justin Trudeau. We can't make fun of dog eating Catherine McKenna, right? Like we can't make those off the cuff jokes, right? Because we got to talk about this crazy thing because the WHO's saying health experts are joining anti-lockdown movements and Quebec's cracking down on people who are doing this, right? The what did I call it? The Great Barrington Declaration has hundreds of thousands of citizens and doctors saying lockdowns are the wrong move, but we have to talk about that instead of talking about our failed politicians. So maybe that's a good segue to talk about a new party in Ontario.
Sure.
Yeah. MPP, and I talked about this on Canada Poly this morning, but Belinda Carriolis is filling the political void with Ontario's newest political party, and it's called New Blue. And I covered this morning, but basically it's Belinda and Jim Carriolis, and Jim Carriolis was running for the CPC leadership in the federal CPC Conservative Party, so that's notable. How do you fix this problem? Hold on, okay, here's Greg.
He got kicked out
Yes.
twice, right? Not just once. But
Yes.
twice.
Yeah.
I think that's notable.
That's notable. Yeah. Why did he get kicked out? Do you remember why he got kicked out?
Wrong think, probably. I don't know why. Why?
He pointed out that Aaron O'Toole's campaign manager, Waleed Solomon, is closely tied with the Muslim Brotherhood. So you can't say that in Canada.
Yeah, wrong think.
You can't say that and also run for the political leadership of the opposition.
Right. Well, I mean, it's exciting. We are so a new party. Like, look around. We are so starved for leadership, authentic leadership, not even just conservatism, but like, somebody who has testicles, anyone who has balls and is willing to lead. And I think for anybody who's aware of what's happening, anybody who's willing to stick their neck out to get it chopped off by the mainstream media, like, I have all the respect for somebody who wants to do that. And I think that I hope that over the next decade, there's going to be a big awakening for Canadians across the country in various different ways. And I hope that we are going to start looking at the political arena more seriously, because it's always been this thing that you set it and forget it. And it's just kind of like, oh yeah, politics, like, our campaigns last like 2 months or something like this. Yeah, and people just kind of quickly look and then they quickly vote. And we have so much to lose in this country, whether it's resources, freedoms, so many amazing things. And I hope that more Canadians will start to wake up and kind of just start to engage in any way. More parties, sure. More leaders, I hope so.
Yeah. I will say that there have been some wonderfully strong female leaders as well, Margaret Thatcher. And so your testicle comment is not necessarily biological testicles. You just need the ability to stand up and say what you believe and say it truthfully. Like I was thinking earlier, man, I'd love to have the confidence to be able to dismiss crazy conspiracy theories like a lot of what's happened in the last 6 months, like all of COVID, right? Like I would love to have a reasonable explanation and reasonable leadership presenting reasonable facts and saying, because we're seeing X, Y, Z, we're deciding to do this, and this is what we're going to do to help the impacted businesses or whatever. But instead what's happening is the communication is very poor from the leadership about what they're going to do and why. The communication about who's making the decisions based on what data is very muddy. The information that is coming out about fines, why is it fines? Why is it more expensive to get caught violating a COVID emergency order than it is to commit fraud as a political party? Why is it twice as expensive? $10,000 potential fine, rather than the Ontario government anyway voted down a $5,000 fraud fine for political parties, and so why are we okay with this draconian leadership? Why are we not organizing against it? And part of the answer is because if you look at what happened to people who've done this, Faith Goldie, Maxime Bernier, even Andrew Scheer, they're going to get called a racist. They're going to get called. They're going to have an entire attack thrown at them, and I mean, an attack that works. So
Yeah, an attack that works.
And it's not based in reality. An attack. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, and to my earlier comment, yeah, anyone can have balls. Like, Faith
Yes.
Goldie had balls.
Yep.
I mean, as in, you know what I mean by that.
I do. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear to the audience because
Yeah, and
I
don't
was
you
like,
know,
oh, I don't know.
don't you know, Mark? I mean, women can have balls now, apparently.
See, I knew I was going to open the door.
Yeah, but
Welcome
no,
to Canada.
you're asking why, like why is this fine more than committing fraud? And there's so many why questions.
Yes.
I think broadly my why question is why is not every leader focused on doing everything they can to getting us back to normal?
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like it's still this very, very fearful, very sort of, we need the COVID's still out there. COVID's still out there. And to me, that just says everything.
Mm-hmm.
These people, I'm sorry, are not trying to help the Canadian economy or help us get back to normal. They don't even want to talk about age differences or anything like that.
No. Well, they're using kids as a fear wedge. Your kids are at school. The teachers are using kids as a fear wedge, right? Oh no, it's going to happen. Like whatever.
And that's a great point, because it was actually the same business owner who I was chatting with that she posted something on her Instagram story that basically said, okay, July cases are going down, August cases are going down, opening up. Because like service was available, like you could go out and dine out in August, and then everyone goes back to school, and then we're talking about all these new cases, and it's interesting how it coincides with people going back to school, almost as if, like you said, it's the fear of the children that's kind of justifying this whole new lockdown as they kind of. Well, I don't want to get conspiratorial, but the timing was very interesting.
It is very interesting, and I mean, like it coincides with flu season, and there's been an abnormally low amount of flu this year. I wonder why. Yeah, I don't want to know. So it's is there something nefarious going on? I would just love to be able to be able to trust the institutions that we used to be able to trust, and maybe we were stupid to trust them in the past. Maybe more fool us, but I wish that there was a way to not police the news, but like reduce it from the 24-hour opinion cycle to like, this is what happened. Like, we're not going to say anything else. This is just what happened. Like evil Donald Trump and his evil henchmen. We met with Bernie Sanders, who's very nice, and we all like Bernie, but not that evil Donald Trump, right? Like, I would just like something real and not obviously trying to shape my opinion.
Yeah, that is a huge topic that I'm very passionate about in terms of how editorialized the news is. And once again, this friend who I was chatting with, who's a business owner, she was like, why aren't people talking about what the WHO said, that the lockdown is not good for the health of people? And I told her, like, news or lying by omission, that is the worst kind of fake news. If you want to talk about fake news, like ignoring something existing, acting like it's not even there, technically that's not lying. But the fact that it's completely omitted from people's consciousness or people knowing, like, and I think it's absolutely terrible here in Canada, especially. Case in point, if you talk to majority of Canadians, they're going to be following the American election, and and I'll ask them, hey, why don't you follow Canadian politics? Oh, there's nothing happening. It's boring. And it's like, there was a nearly $1 billion scandal on a fake charity happening. It's like, what is, and why is this not a popular thing? It's because lying by omission. That's my argument.
Yeah, well, and the news packages it up really, really in a bland way. Like I think, and I, why I do my show. I think it's so funny. I think the whole politics world is hilarious. The fact that you can just look at these people and they're being genuine and they've been duped, or they're playing an angle, like trying to play to this voter group or that voter group, or they're just that incompetent, right? Like maybe they're just that incompetent. Who knows?
Yeah. I actually had a tweet the other day. I just sent it to you in the chat here, but it kind of encapsulates the point I was just saying. The news in the U.S. says outrageous collusion, scandal, corrupt, incompetent leaders, impeachment. And then the news in Canada, and I just link a CBC News article, Tucker Carlson was criticized after he appeared to mispronounce Ottawa. But several indigenous scholars say his pronunciation actually better resemble the word's origins. This is not news.
Nope.
This is not news. This is like an interesting anecdote. It's like trivia, but it's like, really? It's ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right. Our news has been triviaized, right? It's like today is Dog Owners Day, tomorrow's Friendship for Girls Day. And then you've got Doug Ford being like, oh, it's Girls Day. It's like, Doug Ford, it's Thanksgiving weekend, man. Like, what are you doing? Kind of crazy. Oh, it's so frustrating.
Yeah. And to what you were saying earlier, it's, I would like to have news that just states the facts. I would like to have news that I know, or at least feels like it wasn't paid for by the federal government.
Yes.
And with all the money that's thrown out to these news organizations now, we don't even know that. We know the CBC, it's harder for them to be objective when they're, they work for
the biggest customer is the government. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's since we don't know how the rest of that money is distributed to trusted journalists, it's like
yeah. I'll tell you, I don't make $30,000 a month on my GoFundMe or not GoFundMe, the Patreon.
Shots fired.
Canada Land.
Yeah, you guys make a lot of money each month. What's that all about?
What is going on with that?
Loyal fans. That's it. That's all.
When we get to 500 subscribers, man, we'll get our own Patreon.
Heck yeah. Let's make it happen.
We'll make $20. Okay, so I think that will wrap up our conversation. There's a little bit of hope. We've got some leaders who are talking about starting a new party. They've started the process. I think that there's room for that part of the opposition. There's room to articulate what Doug Ford is doing wrong. There's room even within the context of what other premiers are doing.
Whoa! Like room for like differing opinions? Is that what you're...
room to hold Ford accountable, because the opposition right now is asking for more lockdown and basically like you're not going far enough. And I'm saying this is crazy considering what the WHO and the CDC and all these people are saying. Like we should have somebody who's a conservative, right? Conserving Canadian values, conserving the traditions of our country. Yes,
but wouldn't that involve an actual conversation with people of differing opinions?
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying like we should have that. That's what should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, Doug Ford is just expelling people from his caucus, right? If they disagree with him, like from Randy Hilliard to Belinda Carriolis to I'm sure there are other examples, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. If they vote against his policies. And so that's what I mean. Like we've got people who are opposing Ford already. They've got seats in the legislature. They could even band together and have a voice now. And that's hard. That's it's certainly not a short path to a viable party. But it's the only one I can clearly see at this point. And maybe there are other parties, like there are other parties in Ontario that are registered and can run in the next election. But I haven't seen anybody mounting a clear, articulate, this is what Ford is doing wrong. This is what we think he could do better. This is why we think that, right? Like it's all emotional. What did you call it before? Triviaized, right? Like it's not real. It's very flimsy. The stuff that the opposition is currently doing. They want what the UN wants, and I want somebody who is articulating traditional conservative values.
And what the citizens want.
And yeah, like what people in Canada who are living in this and who are looking at this and saying, this is insane, this doesn't work.
Oh yeah, like serving the constituents. Like
yes.
That's what they're supposed to do to begin with. Like that's the whole idea. Yeah.
And it's funny how they've made us believe that they are by chopping us up and giving groups of us little things, right? They make enough of us believe that they're working for us to get us to vote for them in. Mm-hmm. Wild. All right, that brings us to the end of our show today. Greg, where are you at? check out Greg at.
Check me out on my YouTube channel, link below. I also have a new climate change parody music video, which I suggest you check out. It's very funny, I think, maybe.
Nice.
Go-
I didn't know it was released yet, so I was like, "Oh, how far are you along?" And he's like, "Yeah, I released it." I was like, "Oh, I feel bad about that." I didn't check it. I don't know.
No worries.
I'm head down creating other stuff. I'm sorry. I'll check it after this though. And if you want to find out where I'm creating other stuff, check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co for my scratch pad. And well, here's the Prime Minister to play us out. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back again next Tuesday. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, next Tuesday. And thanks for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Speaking moistly, keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.